Issue 11, Combat Patrol. Wow, more paints. Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games. And today we're going to be doing part 11 of our continuing series of Hachette Collection's Combat Patrol magazine. Now this magazine comes with two paints, Lead Belcher and Corax White, and I'll talk about those in a moment. But as with all kind of paint issues, there tends to be a little bit of extra lore in the magazine because you're not fitting in a how to build and in some cases how to paint guide. Now in this one there is a fairly elaborate how to paint guide because it's touching on Lead Belcher. Now Lead Belcher, for people who haven't really painted before, is going to be an essential paint for your collection because it covers most of the weapons, such as your guns, your swords and your pistols, and that will be across all of the combat patrols. So what it's doing here is it's showing you a bit of an example on how to use the Lead Belcher across different bits and pieces. The other paint you have, of course, is Corax White, which you'll be using on the pauldrons of the Space Marine captains and Terminators in the next few issues. It also has, of course, some lore about the Cult Mechanicus. Now, the Cult Mechanicus are an interesting offshoot of the Imperium. These are basically the guys who worship technology, and they are all based on Mars, or they've originated from the Cult Mechanicus on Mars. Now, they have a kind of a separate faith in the Imperium. They believe in the Omniasia, which is kind of a cult machine spirit. They believe that all machines have their own kind of singular spirits, and that the Emperor is basically either a vassal of the machine god's will or a kind of an offshoot of the machine god's will. So they kind of confuse the Emperor of Mankind. Not confused, but they think the Emperor of Mankind is affiliated, if not a vassal of the machine spirit itself. So they're a really cool little faction because they've a kind of a retro futuristic style to them, in the sense that they're very Western themed in their long rifles and in their kind of transport weaponry. I mean, they have mechanical horses that help push them through, and they have robes and all sorts of cool things. You have here the bioweaponry of the actual Tyranids. Now this is a really cool little bit of lore because basically the Tyranids, if they come across something new, they'll design something new to take it down. So it goes across some of the actual weapons here. So some interesting stuff here, such as the ranged weapon, like the Flesh Borer, fires hard-shelled, flesh-eating beetles, and once they make contact, they burrow furiously into the prey with horrific effect. So kind of like the scarabs in the Mummy films. You have the Devourer, which is a chunk of necrotic flesh that's home to thousands of maggots and can be sprayed on distant foes to consume their flesh. So again, I guess their version of the flamethrower. You have living ammunition, so they fire live organisms that attack their targets upon contact. And some have veins or fins that allow them to change direction mid-flight or can detonate on command. So nasty stuff there. And you have the Heavy Venom Cannon, which is an unusual and highly effective bioweapon used by the Hive Mind to shatter armor. They fire crystals of solidified acid that strike the target at enormous speed. Any tanks not destroyed by the initial impact find their armor corroded by the venom itself. So they have all the usual anti-armor, anti-personnel, and kind of sniper explosive ammunition that will be available to all the other kind of factions in the 40K universe. You also have some interesting melee weapons, such as the Scything Talon, which is allows them to attack with greater speed, the Rending Claws, which allows them to tear through armor, and the Bone Sword, which is a biological analogy to power swords. They are wreathed in a wave of psychic force that blasts apart the souls of the Tyranid's victims. So again, they're as versatile as any other foe in the 40K universe. You have the usual little bit of fiction here called Into the Dark, fixating on Terminators, exploring the depths of an infested starship. You have a couple of pages of that, and you have, of course, phases and objectives. So it explains the game as you're going along. Turn breakdowns, objectives, things like that. And you have a new scenario, which is called Objective Secured, using, of course, all the terrain pieces you have and a lot of the minis you have up to this point in its own specific little scenario. These are the two paints. Again, Lead Belcher is an excellent paint. It's just like I said, it's used for weapons, it's used for swords. You'll find that you'll be using this paint a lot. Corax White is an okay paint. I have found Citadel white paints kind of hard to work with. I'll give you an example here now. These are the Terminators, and what it's doing is it's asking you to use the Corax white paint on the helmets and on the pauldrons, but I tend to use a paint called Celestra Grey as a base, and then white scar on top of it instead, because Corax white I have found doesn't give me the best example. Now those are just the kind of the white paints I would use myself. There are other professional painters on YouTube that would show you much better ways of working with white, but if I were you, I would look at a couple of painting tutorials before I use Corax white to base any of my paints with, because it's a difficult paint to work with. Leadbelcher is not. Leadbelcher is perfect, but this one I have had mixed results with it in the past. So as always, this is Sean from The Lucky Roll. If you enjoy these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, and tune in next time when we're going to be talking about the Terminators.